I've been waiting to make this video for a while now, but you might be wondering why. Well, it's partially because of the event that just happened a couple of days ago, but it's also because of me never making an Apple event roundup video. So finally, I get to fulfill my long-awaited dream, maybe, dream, to make a recap of the Apple event. But originally, I made this video to be just a simple recap, all the products. But I want to spark some thought. I want to spark conversation. So that's my goal of this video. I want to share my thoughts about the Apple event and some of the products, and also, subsequently, recapping every single thing. So, if you're excited for this video, definitely leave a like down below, subscribe, and let's get into it. So that Apple event, it was the mix of unbelievable and less unbelievable, and then just boring believable. So basically, let's talk about some of the new things that came at this Apple event, starting with the iPhone 13 in green. And nope, I'm not a fan of it. I was waiting for it, but it just turned out to be just bad. I don't like it. It just looks terrible. It looks like an olive. But that Alpine green on the iPhone 13 Pro, yes. That is a complete yes. It looks definitely different than some of the other colors. It differentiates itself from things like the S22 and the OnePlus 10. They're all sort of the same color spectrum. But this one's amazing. So Alpine green is good, but what I was disappointed about was the regular 13's green, which gave me no hope with the iPhone 13 in green, and I'm sort of disappointed. I honestly thought this was going to be a very good green, something like the iPhone 11 green, which was a very successful green, including the midnight green. So yeah, that's the iPhone 13 in green. Well, there's no changes, it's just the color, and obviously as a green enthusiast, I had to give my opinion, which I'd say that the 13 green is disappointing and looks terrible, and the Alpine green looks incredible. Definitely, Apple did a good job there. So, let's talk about the iPhone SE3, because I think that's a pretty good upgrade, but it's also on the spectrum of being like the iPhone 13 in green, because it's really not a lot of updates. So the first thing is obviously the design. It's still the 5-year-old, or technically 4-year-old design of the iPhone 8. And the way you look at it, it could be also a 7-year-old or 8-year-old design from the iPhone 6. There is a slight color change as well. So new color changes are there. So a little bit different. So we have Midnight, Starlight, and Red. I actually predicted this in my bingo, and you can check that out in the link in the description if you wanted to see my bingo, because I predicted a Starlight, or actually in the bingo is Red, but I did predict a Starlight iPhone SE3. You can see my renditions from, I guess, a couple of months before. I think it was like February or January when I redid my iPhone SE stuff, and that looked pretty spot on to the iPhone SE that was released a couple of days ago. So I think I did a good job there. So Starlight and Midnight come to the iPhone SE, so that is really good. So the next thing that's obviously an update is 5G. Now, yesterday, at the time of filming this video, so basically it was revealed that millimeter wave 5G is not on the iPhone SE. So it's only sub 6 and some other forms of 5G that are in some carrier models. The next thing is obviously the new performance updates. So the A15 chip is finally coming to the iPhone SE3. So it's the same chip as an iPhone 13, And it basically promises one thing that I found to be a little bit interesting, and that's battery updates. So it basically gives you 2 extra hours made by the efficiency of the A15 chip. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, to see if those claims hold up in some videos that you'll be seeing in the next few weeks from some major YouTubers on Twitter in your inbox and subscription box. So that's a big update, and obviously we know about the A15's performance because it's already been on the iPhone 13, which I'm currently filming on. So yeah, basically the A15 is pretty much the same thing that we come to know and love of the iPhone 13, and just comes to the iPhone SE, which gives major, technically, 2 hours of battery. So that's good. So yeah, the iPhone SE 3, it's really, what I think is pretty much not really that worth it. I don't really see it as a good value device. It's definitely gotten better for its spec price, but the updates aren't really that good to justify that $30 price hike. So I mean, I guess it's fine. It's not really justifiable. I still think that an iPhone 11 is better and an iPhone 10R even, so it's not really that good. But I mean, for some people, it is still the device that I guess is the best for them. So there's still some use cases that are applicable to people who will own the iPhone SE 3. So that's good. Let's get to the new iPad Air, which is a very respectable update. So it's the same iPad Air that we saw in 2020, but it doesn't even have a flash module, which is already in the iPad Mini 6 and the iPad Pro. So that was a really weird thing not to include. But it does come in new colors, including space gray, pink, purple, blue, and starlight. So those are some very nice colors. And another prediction, which I didn't really publish, but I did have an iPad in starlight and purple, and that was before the event. But the purple was just because of Luke Miani, their prediction. So my original prediction was the Starlight iPad Air, and it came. So another prediction. You can call me the color analyst of iPad colors and technically iPhone colored. So it basically has the same design and pretty much the same screen, except it did get a brightness bump. I believe it's 500 nits of brightness. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the internals are just something that I didn't expect. And that is a new M1 chip. So I will get to my whole thoughts and communication part because this is part of it. And that's because the iPad Air is pretty much the same price, $599. And because of that M1 chip, this opens up something bigger in the picture. And that's that Apple can offer M1 at a very low price while also having the same performance, the same full fat M1 chip that we saw in the iPad Pro. And technically the M1 MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and the M1 iMac. So the real picture that I'm trying to paint here is that the iPad with an M1 that starts at $599, same price, can have an M1 chip in it. That's already showing a lot of things, and that opens up a bunch of possibilities that we could see in Macs, the rest of the lineup too. Maybe even the iPad mini will get an M1 chip. You never know. You never know. So that's pretty eye-opening, and the fact that they didn't change the price makes the iPad Air a little bit more worth the value. But I mean, iPad OS just doesn't really take advantage of a lot of the features, so it doesn't really matter a lot. But it's still an M1 chip. Now let's talk about the cameras, because the cameras are a little bit updated. So the back camera, the rear camera, now has a 12 megapixel resolution and also has 4K video recording. So I believe it didn't have 4K video recording unless I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it did though. So yeah. So basically it's the same. So it now has a 12 megapixel rear camera. It also has a new 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, which is in every single iPad except this one before the event. So I guess it's just a spec bump to basically add to it. So it is supported by center stage. Obviously, it has an ultra wide camera, so it does have a center stage, which we all know and come to love for the iPad Air and also the iPad Pro and the iPad Mini and the rest of the iPads that have already gotten it previously. So that's basically the cameras, and the performance is obviously a huge boost. And also, one notable thing is also the USB-C port. So it's a little bit better 10 gig speed, so it's pretty fast for things that you'd want to do. But that's not it, because Apple blew us away even more than we've ever seen before. And that's with the new M1 Ultra chip. So basically, let's break down the M1 Ultra chip. So the M1 Ultra chip comes with two M1 Maxes, and they have the secret part that some YouTubers and some analysts have been talking about, and that's the part where you can connect two M1 Maxes together, or subsequently M1 Pros, and that's amazing. So you can have pretty much what double of the M1 Max has, so 8 times performance than the M1 chip. So that is a huge difference between the M1 and the M1 Ultra. So that's a big thing. And I think this is the final form of M1. Maybe it'll be doubled again, two M1 Ultras stuck together for the Mac Pro, but that's basically the whole thing about M1 Ultra, and it's incredible how much performance it can get for essentially what started as an iPad chip, and essentially now is a full-fat desktop processor. And it does come with a lot of things, especially the performance. It has a 20-core CPU and up to a 64-core GPU, and that's crazy. And I think that's incredible how much performance you can get with 100 watts less efficiency than an RTX 3090, which is incredible how much performance it can get while being pretty efficient as well. So the M1 Ultra is pretty performant with 16 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. So it's pretty much a monster powerhouse of a CPU and an amazing GPU too. So it's pretty much the full package of M1 and making it a performance powerhouse for whoever would need or require that much performance. The M1 Ultra is a very good chip with adequate performance, even better performance, and combined with efficiency, it's definitely a very worthy chip through the likes of Intel and RTX 3090 graphics. It definitely beats out the competition. What Apple used this M1 Ultra in is a new line of computer. We've never seen this before, and it's the Mac Studio. Apple calls it the Mac Studio because it's supposed to be in your studio. 16 streams of 8K video, so it's definitely targeted for people who really do, like, I mean, you can even edit probably like a movie on it, like an actual movie that could be in films. The design of it is basically a Mac Mini, but a little bit thicker. So it's stacked. It's basically two Mac Minis stacked on top of each other to create this chunk boy, which looks kind of obscure, but also pretty cool at the same time. Now the front is even has some I/O on it. It's just the beginning of the I/O because there's more on the back, but the front I/O comes with two USB-C ports and also a SD card slot. So that's a UHS-2 SD card slot. So essentially it's well thought out because when you're using your computer, you're gonna put some external drives. You're gonna slide in your SD card for making some videos, and I think that's just genius of how it can just be like your loading workstation. And then at the back is where the whole magic comes through because there's a bunch of ports on it. So let's break down all the ports. So basically, but that's not it, because on the back there's lots of ports. So there's 4 Thunderbolt ports, there's a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, a 3-prong power connector, and then we have 2 USB-A ports, an HDMI port, and also we have an audio jack. So that is a lot of ports. And also, before I continue, that audio jack is a high impedance audio jack, so that's definitely a lot of ports. And as I said earlier, it's for performance focused powerhouse people who need that, because they're probably going to hog up almost all of those ports. So it's definitely something for people who really need a lot of those ports and a lot of the performance, and it really shows that. So on the back there's airflow, there's these little holes for airflow, and on the bottom, on the base, there's also airflow too. So it's very well thought out and well designed, and it just looks really nice. So one thing that I've been waiting to talk about is expressing my thoughts. So in the iPad Air stuff, we talked about what M1 means for the iPad being at $599. And one thing I wanted to talk about is, what will the Mac Studio replace? What is it trying to be? Because it's not exactly a Mac Pro, because actually in the keynote, John Turner said,
with just one more product to go, Mac Pro. But that is for another day. Now back to Tim.
So it's definitely hinting that Apple will make a Mac Pro, but it's just not for that event. But I wonder what the Mac Studio is replacing, because the 27-inch iMac on Apple's website was quietly removed, and I'm kind of sad about that, because the hopes and dreams of us having an iMac Pro are dwindling down a little bit. Now, maybe Apple will obviously resurrect it. That's something we're expecting at WWDC, and also the Mac Pro. But I feel like Apple's hinting to us that they don't want to make a Pro all-in-one desktop, because you know what they have? They have the Mac Studio for that. Notice, the display is almost the exact same thing as a 27-inch iMac. The same P3 color gamut, the same 5K resolution. It feels like Apple's trying to replace the 27-inch iMac. And that's something I wanted to spark discussion with. This is my whole point of this video. For me, I think Apple's definitely hinting at replacing the 27-inch iMac. And actually, I have a 27-inch iMac behind me, and it's not the 5K resolution, it's 1440p, but basically the hopes and dreams of a 27-inch iMac or an iMac Pro is dwindling down a bit. That's the whole thing that Apple's trying to hint at, and I'm just sad about it. I think that Apple should. I mean, I like the Mac Studio. It's a great device. It's a powerhouse. It's a good device, but I think Apple should still make an all-in-one Pro desktop. That's still something that I believe that consumers still want, because they just want a desktop, but all-in-one. Just have the display and the computer inside of it, but I just feel like Apple's not doing that anymore, and that's just a shame. And I think they should start doing it again. So that I'm a little bit sad about that, but we still have WWDC. We still have the whole year to go through the Apple Silicon transition. So let me know what you think. Is the 27-inch iMac dead, or is the Mac Studio replacing something else, or not exactly replacing, but creating a new spot in the lineup that is basically, the Mac Mini has never had a Pro predecessor. It's always been the higher end Mac Mini with configurable processors, but I think this is something that will basically deter the 27-inch iMac. So let me know what you think, and I think that wraps things up. So thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely enjoyed making this. I don't know how long it's been, because right now it's at 36 minutes in recording, so I don't know how long this video will be about me just ranting all and over again about some two things, and also not talking too much about the product, but more about my thoughts on it. So that's it for this video. If you guys liked the video, definitely consider subscribing. And I haven't made a video in a long time. That's something that you can say. So let me know in the comments if you think this Apple event means something for the Mac, because that's the whole general thesis I have for this video. What would be the future of the Mac? In the comments down below about my whole thoughts about this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.